Hi, thanks for joining me again. My name is Rob Peoples. You can call me Peeps. And today I'm going to talk about something you might not be used to. Today I'm going to talk about the top reasons your clients shouldn't put 20% down on the home. Now, why is this? Well, I think as a sales professional, when you bring advice that is different and more appealing and more relatable to the person that you are doing business with directly, the more trusted you will be. I also believe that if you give advice other real estate professionals aren't, you become more referable. So I hope that I break the line of thinking of some of us out there today that 20% down is not this end-all be-all, the number one variable when we're looking for to get somebody into a home, because the reality is a few things, and that's what we'll talk about. I'm going to talk about three. I'm going to talk about 3 reasons why your client should consider maybe not putting 20% down, as well as how it could help you sell more homes faster. Okay, so let's go through a couple of things. Now, the first thing is look, I don't have a crystal ball. Y'all don't have a crystal ball either, right? So none of us can say home values will definitely go up or they will definitely go down this year. But what I know about any investment, what I know about history, what we know about the value of the dollar is what goes up must go down. What goes up must go down. I think that's the law of Sir Isaac Newton, if I'm not mistaken, but it's very true, right? Interest rates over time have not been a constant. Neither have home values, right? So I want you to think about this. If we're in an up market right now, and who knows, none of us know, right? But what if the market takes a $20,000 dip on that home that you got your client into? But they put 20% down, they basically lost it within an instant, right? So one piece of advice you could give your home buyers is like, look, I want to protect you. I don't want to see you put all of that money into this because right now there's some uncertainties. So consider doing less down, putting more in your pocket. Let's mitigate your risk. I know it might not be popular or something you've heard from other people, but there are ways around that. Now, this is a good tip for me. There is going to be in the future, or already is, while you're here, content where I will be working with mortgage professionals to talk to you about the financing and the behind the scenes things about not putting 20% down. So look for that. But the reality is you can tell your client, like, it's basically the concept of let's not put all your eggs in one basket, right? And I want you to think about your 401ks because we already think this way. Do you go all heavy and foreign stock in your 401k? No, right? Generally speaking, a 401k will be well balanced. Well, if you can get your client to see that, look, take half of it, keep it in your pocket, maybe for an investment, maybe we'll talk about something else later, but let's break this mindset that 20% down is needed because it could protect your client from losing it when one neighbor within 1 square mile of them forecloses on their home. So a lot of uncertainty. I saw jobs were down, just literally read a report about it, and none of us have a crystal ball. So think about it this way. It's a positive. You could be giving your client the advice of protecting themselves and protecting the equity. Okay? Well, equity is really your profits. So, my goodness. So that was I hope that rang true with some of you, something different. So, I mean, the reality is like right now with things being so high, a good analogy to use is like, hey, home buying is generally a good investment, but right now there's a little bit of uncertainty. So I want to protect you against that. It's kind of like buying a new car right now where the minute you take it off the lot, we have the potential of losing value. So I'm recommending we put a little less down. Now, that may not be your cup of tea, and that's okay. What I always tell people that come to watch me train is you take what you like, leave what you don't. Figure out how you can incorporate that concept into your business the way that is comfortable for you. But the reality is, give clients good advice that maybe others aren't, and it could make a huge difference. All right. Number 2, here's what I've seen. Now, I worked in mortgages for just about 17 years, and I can't tell you how many calls I've coached or how many calls I've been on myself as a mortgage professional, where I see someone who bought a home, 12 to 36 months ago, and they're already calling me about getting cash out so that they can do the home improvement that they wanted to do anyway when they bought the house. Okay. Now, the reality of that is, sure, that's an option. Sure, It's an option. But you know what else is an option? Not putting 20% down up front, taking care of the bathroom the month you move in, enjoying it for those 2 to 3 years. And here's the real benefit. In order to remodel, you're going to have to refinance your home or liquidate a 401k or all these other things. Now let's talk about refinancing a home or taking a HELOC. You now have a second lien on your property. A second lien, which makes financing more difficult, adds another credit line to your credit report. So I want you all to think about that for a minute. If we know beyond a reasonable doubt that the average client looks to take cash out of their home within a few years of buying it anyway, we can protect them of the cost of having to do that with a refi. We can protect them from the cost of having to get a HELOC. We can protect them from putting a second lien on their home 2 to 3 years from now because they didn't know that using some of that down payment could have made them happy from the day they moved in. So again, be on the lookout for some content coming. I might be interviewing some of the best mortgage professionals in the country to talk to you about how that financing works. So be on the lookout for those. But for real, show your client less money down. We've fixed bathroom. You are in it. Bathroom is good. We're protecting you from, again, having to put a second lien on this in the future. I don't want to see you do that. Okay? Happens too often. Trust me. Third thing, cash is king, right? Look, the world is a wild place, right? And it has been for history. So let's not pretend that like we live in a special world where the world is crazy. Look, every era of history is a little nutty, right? There's some things that go on in history throughout our ages that it goes past generations is what I'm trying to say. But the reality is cash is king. One of the things that motivates people the most is fear. And one of the fears the average homeowner has the most when they go buy a house is, I don't want to lose my house, right? I don't want to lose my house. I don't want to declare bankruptcy. I don't want to this. I don't want to do that. Fear is an amazing motivator, internal fear, the things that I am afraid of as a buyer, okay? So the reality is maybe you give that client that you know for a fact is giving you all their money for the down payment, right? Which is great. I mean, it could make an offer stronger or whatever, but I want you to think about something. Is that what's doing right by that client? Is that going to make you referable? You see what I mean? Is that going to make that person so wowed by your service that they go out and send you 5 more people? And I need everybody to think about that for a minute. What we might lose in the short term by having a little bit less down payment, we could gain 5-10-fold by giving that particular client the advice they needed, not the advice we just give blindly. Okay, so going back to that client, if we know a client is spending every last dime of their hard-earned savings on a down payment at 20%, let them know they don't have to. Let them know the benefit of keeping 10 grand in the bank so that they can handle things in the event of emergency. Because here's the deal, friends. I told you I worked in mortgages for almost 2 decades. I've seen more credit reports than you can possibly imagine. And what I will tell you is within that 2 to 7 to 8 year period, the average American will refinance that home anyway, with a good percentage of that time consolidating other debts that they got themselves into because they liquidated all of their money on a down payment that didn't really make the monthly payment all that much less anyway. I want you to think about that for a minute. Okay. The principal and interest payment on a mortgage between a 0.5 point difference or whatever that you might be paying more because you put less down is not that much money. Okay. I need you all to remember that. A mortgage payment mostly is those taxes and insurance and all the other variables. Sure, there will be PMI. Let me acknowledge that. But the reality is mortgages aren't forever. Mortgages are temporary. You can refinance a home as long as your credit qualifies anytime you want to. Okay, so just because maybe they're putting less down, they got a slightly more higher payment because of PMI, what they have is 15 grand in the bank. To me, that's better for the client than trying to save them an additional $50, $60 a month on the PMI. I'd rather see my client have a year to 2 years of reserves on hand to cover their bills in the event of an emergency or sickness than keep them focused on an arbitrary number of 20% down. Again, you got to ask yourself, what is the right plan to buy this house for the person that I have in front of me? Not for a blanket message for every client that I talk to, because when you start to deliver that hyper-focused, individualized service, you're going to find that those people are not only attached to you professionally, but they will be attached to you emotionally. I'm not kidding. Give advice that other real estate agents don't. Be okay with challenging the status quo. Be okay with giving advice based on the situation of the person that you have in front of you. I think we have a duty to do so, and sometimes we get stuck in the 20% down mindset. Okay? So hopefully these tips will ring true to each and every one of you. Again, take what you like, leave what you don't with anything that I come to talk about. I don't claim to have the way to do anything, but I have a way for everybody to consider. So again, my name is Rob Peoples. You can call me Peeps, and thanks for joining me. I hope these top reasons why your client shouldn't put 20% down help you get a client off the fence, or maybe get that first-time home buyer in that house the right way to protect them in the long run and make yourself the hero. All right. Well, again, thanks for joining me. I hope to see you again.